welcome to Devon Recovery Learning Community's seasonal crafts course. This week we are doing foil decorations. I'm going to do a bird shape. So you've got a foil tray in your pack. You're going to need a needle from a previous week. You should have got a couple of beads and some of the thread we used before. Now you can do lots of different shapes, but I'm going to do a bird shape today. Obviously do hearts or stars. And I want to flatten out my tray, but I don't want to lose the crinkly edge because I'm going to use that to be a nice texture for my bird table. So I'm just cutting around the sides just so I can now lay it flat and it's easier to work with. Be careful with the tin foil because it is sharp, but it'll cut just really easily with any scissors. Now I've got a bird template I've just drawn out here. I'm just going to lay that on the foil, go round it with a Sharpie pen. Now, if you haven't got a permanent marker type pen, you could use a biro and just push a bit harder. So I don't want to cut the foil off around the edge of my tail there because I'm going to use that. There we go. Now I just start cutting around. It's a great way to sharpen your scissors. We got given loads of these trays because they've been stored incorrectly, so they're perfectly clean, usable commercial trays, but because they've been stored in the wrong conditions, they couldn't be used for a takeaway business anymore. So they gave them to us, and now we've been sending them out in the packs. But tin foil trays are really, common in most people's recycling, and you can flatten out tin cans and do this with like Coke cans or fizzy pop cans. So I'm just neatening up my edge there. But as you can see, we've got a nice little bird shape. And it's got a nice crinkly tail. So I'm going to put a book down and I've got a paper plate here just to stop. I don't want to dig into my table. Now where the ridges are on the foil tray, just use your finger to press them down and they will become much less visible when we start our decoration. So I'm going to take a needle and just pop a hole through the top there, just so I've done that and I know which bit is my top. And then, you can use a knitting needle or a ballpoint pen and you can just start making, if you push quite hard, then you really easily emboss the foil. So now he's got a nice eye. You don't need to push too hard. Make sure you have got something underneath like a book or a magazine or a chopping board, something like that. So I'm going to do some wings here. You can really, follow your imagination on this. So there's some wings. I think I'll give it a nice little definition on the beak. Go. I'm going to do some decoration around the eye just with some little dots. And as you can see, whether you use a needle or a pen, knitting needle or a pen, it comes out really well. And you don't need to push super hard. So he's going to have a nice little red breast. Just going to do some cross hatching here to give that idea of different colours on the bird's breasts. There. Little curly bits on the tail, and you could do lots of feathers. You can use some nail varnish or some permanent markers to add some colour. Now I'm just going to trim into this tail. It's got really nice crinkly bits, and as you can see, it starts getting a little bit more 3D then. I'm just going to trim off any sharp bits. If it's not, it looks a bit wonky anyway, just do a little trim. Oh dear, I've gone off the screen a little bit. Just taking off, there's a little lump on the top there. Just make them nice and smooth around the edges. There we go. It's got a nice tail. And I've got rid of a couple of little sharp bits. Make sure they're out of the way so you don't hurt yourself on there. And then I'm going to take my threaded needle, pull it through, and then get my bead. Make sure that your bead fits through the eye of the needle. The eye of the needle fits through the bead, should I say. And I mean, you can use buttons for this, or you could even use a little bit of tin foil and roll it into a ball and make your own bead from it. So there we go. Right, is that going to come on? Yep, there we go. So now I've got my bead on there. So I can tie. I've kept my needle attached to make it a bit easier to thread through the knot. I'm just going to tie that in a double knot at the bottom because I've left myself a tail. And then with the remainder of that tail of cotton, I'm just going to tie a knot in the top. And this will mean we can hang it from anywhere. Now you could make, as I said before, you could make hearts, you could make stars, you could make more of a 3D shape by making a flower with some petals. And we'll go through some of this when we are doing the tutorial. So there we go. There's a fun little bird. Snip off those end bits. And they're a really unique little gift. You could put people's names on them. You could go over the whole thing with feathers. So there we are. And we can go through some other shapes in the Zoom tutorial as well. It's got a nice little wings. You could even trim out the wings, cut the wings out and make them 3D like the tail a bit more. You can have a good old experiment.